so we're in 7-9. I would say 7-9 is similar to 7-8 in the sense that it's just random, complex, and imaginary number stuff. That no one of these items really is worth its own day, and they just continue to kind of throw stuff at you. So what we did last lesson, we were doing some stuff with equals, we were doing some stuff with multiply. What was the key concept, exclamation point, star, of multiplying with imaginaries?
What is
I
it?
squared
It's -1.
is -1. So I squared being -1 was the foundation for multiplication. We did some stuff with conjugates. What's the word conjugate mean? That'll be back today.
Switch the symbol.
Switch the sign with the I. So wherever the I's sign is, we switched that. We did some multiplication shortcut move where there were conjugates, where it looked like we should maybe FOIL. Like if I said 7 plus 3i, 7 minus 3i, the appearance of that is kind of inviting you to FOIL it. And it's not wrong to FOIL it, but I gave you a shortcut that was a how many step plan? Two-step plan. What was the two-step plan? Square F. Did you have to even consider the i's and the signs?
Nope.
Nope. Just focus on 7, focus on 3, square F. What would this one give you?
58.
58 is correct, because 49 plus 9 would get us 58. That skill will be around today. We divided. Dividing, the ruling was you're not allowed to have I on the bottom. You can't have I on the bottom. We'll have to fix those with some conjugate two-step shortcut moves. And then reciprocals means flip. That was going to put I's on the bottom, but again, 2 sections in a row without previous homework, you're not allowed I's on the bottom. So that's all the stuff that we were doing last lesson. This lesson uses some of those skills and then throws some other stuff at you completely unrelated. So here's the first thing they're going to do with you, and we could have done this just as easily 1 or 2 lessons ago as today. There's no fuss really about this one. But they're asking you, is a certain thing a solution of an equation? So how do you judge if a certain thing is a solution of an equation? You plug it in. So I would expect to see some work on this. I would not expect you to act like you can take 1 plus I squared, putting it in there, minus 2 of these 1 plus i's, and add 2. I would think you shouldn't act like you can do that all in your mind. Okay? So if you just write yes, no, I would assume what you did is probably just guessed and took a 50-50 shot. So if you want credit for your homework, you got to show me you actually invested the time to actually plug this in. But take the thing that they give you that's invisibly like it's in parentheses and put it everywhere you see an X. So there's a square zone, there's a regular zone, there's a non-zone. And what we're going to do over time is work this down, and eventually, maybe you'll get
a solution.
What magic number would we hunt here?
0.
0, because it's supposed to equal 0. If we work this down, down, down until it's 0, we would then say yes. And if we got any other thing in the world, we'd say no. Okay. So plus 2, I'm not going to touch. Let's do this next, because that's medium skill. Minus 2i, a little bit of distributing. Squaring, we've had a lot this chapter. When you square something with 2 items, you should end up with 3. Or maybe even 4 for a second, depending on how you do it. Because squaring means there's twins. So if you're foiling that, there's 4 that's going to boil down to 3 eventually. What's the thing we get?
1.
We get a 1.
2i.
We get 2 of the i's. This would get me a 1i. That would get me another 1i. Together, that's 2i.
I squared.
And temporary, we could go with an I squared. A temporary I squared would be fine. Question about how I squared that out with a little bit of foiling, or how I distributed it, or what we did there? Why did I use the word temporary?
It is -1.
I squared is -1. So I'm not going to keep that long term. If you don't even want to keep that temporary, I squared is -1. And now try to put stuff together. 2 i's? What's going to happen?
Cancel out.
They're eliminated. So -2i, +2i. Bye-bye. The 2's? A positive 2, negative 2, bye-bye.
The ones are also gone.
Positive 1, negative 1, bye-bye. Total would therefore be
0.
So we'd say,
Yes.
are they all gonna say yes?
No.
No, it's gonna be a mix. If one of these signs was off,
Then it would not be.
it would be a no. It would be tempting, but it wouldn't work. Question about that, that'll be your first group of homework life. If you wanna peek while we're talking, the new homework's on 332. You would now have the understanding of how to do 1 to 6. 1 to 6, they're gonna give you a thing, have you plug it in, and this would actually be like 1A. Each of the problems, they'll give you 2 of them. They might say, is this a solution? And then maybe they come back with, is that a solution? And make you rework a similar but slightly different question. But they'll give you 2 per problem. You can say yes, yes, or no, no, or whatever you say. Question about that, is it a solution, plug it in, skill, anything on 1 to 6 that you're looking at thinking, uh-oh. Second thing they're going to do is they're going to tell you there is some equation in the world that will have these solutions. Go find it. And so you're going to have to go opposite something you're used to doing. We've had quite a few questions this year where you come out with 2, not usually 3, but once in a while 3 solutions. Can anybody tell me if these were the 3 solutions that we got as final answers, where would that have come from?
So we did this in like 7-7, I think.
Could work.
Maybe.
I remember what you do, but I don't remember what it's called.
Let me go a simpler version of this. So if I told you 3 was an answer and negative 4 was an answer to some sort of equation.
You would have got it from like x minus 3 and x,
Okay, we would have had an x minus 3 involved to feed us a 3.
and x plus 4.
We'd have had an x plus 4 to feed us the negative 4. This would have equaled 0. And before it looked like that, it would have looked like x squared plus an x
Minus 12
equals 0. We're doing a little bit bigger version of that. Okay, so we've had a lot of problems that have worked this way. What they're asking you to do is reverse the string. So where would 2 have come from?
x minus 2.
X minus 2. Where would I have come
X
from?
minus I.
X minus I. Where would the negative I have come from? X plus I. And that should equal 0. Then the homework, I'm going to go 50-50. In the book, they foiled them all out. What I'm going to do and cut you a break is say we're going to foil out half of them. If it is an even, we're going to foil it out. If it's an odd, we're just going to roll with that. We would just put this down, that's our answer, we roll on out. But if it's an even, we're going to foil down the line. Okay? If we were going to foil this, you can't foil 3 things at a time. You first have to pick 2. I would pick the 2 that look the most alike because your hope is that some of the pieces are going to just like disappear. Okay, so if it's this one, who would we leave out of it at first?
The x minus
The x
2.
minus 2 we would leave out of it. These we could foil. We would get an x squared,
Minus I squared,
a minus I squared,
which is just plus 1.
so a plus 1. Who else is there?
Ix
Ix, what sign are you seeing?
plus
Plus
and minus.
and minus. So those
Cancel.
cancel out. Okay, so if we FOIL, there's a negative Ix that we could have written, but I chose not to because I've done this problem before. There's a positive Ix I chose not to write because I've done this problem before, and I knew those 2 pieces
Cancel out.
eliminated. There was a minus I squared, which I could have temporarily written, but again, I squared is negative 1. So negative I squared should become positive 1. And then there's an x squared there. Question about how we FOILed that part? Here's an even quicker way to do that one. These are an example of
Conjugate.
conjugates. And conjugate multiplications, we have a plan that is
Square add.
square add. So square, because these have 1s. So square, x squared, 1, 1, add. Okay, so we could have gone two-step plan on that. Now we're going to have to FOIL.
X cubed.
X cubed is there.
Plus 1x.
A plus 1x is there.
Minus
Minus
2x
2x.
squared. That's
Minus
squared.
2x squared. Minus 2. And then that's a lot of nice work, and on a quiz I would go minus half z.
Equals 0.
It has to be an equation. Equations have to have
An equal.
an equal sign, so it's going to equal 0 every time. So if it were an odd number, that would have been my answer. If it's an even, that's going to be my answer. On the quiz, I don't remember what I had to do, and we'll talk about that when the quiz arrives. But we've got to equal 0, either foiled or unfoiled, as the case may be. Question about that? Then here's a question that looks like one we did, but it's different. Okay, the previous homework had some questions about equality, where what I did is I took the stuff with i's and I partnered it up to equal the other stuff with i's and did work on that. That's not what we're doing on this at all, so don't get this crisscrossed with that. Our goal here is solve for x, like you've been solving for x all your life. If you're solving for x, you want everything with an x eventually on one side and all the other stuff the other side. So that's what we're doing here. We're not trying to partner anybody with anybody. We're just trying to get all the x's together, all the numbers out of there, and see what things look like. So what would you do first if you're trying to get after x's? Distribute. So 3ix adds 4, subtracts 5i. There's a 1x, there's an ix, there's a 2i. Distribute's a good move to get the x's all a little bit more available. Then like we just talked about, all the x's
Have to get to one
to
side.
one side. So is this going to change because of a friend, or is that just stuck?
Can change.
Change to how much number instead of 3?
2ix.
2ix. Because this is its friend that invisibly has a 1. Adding here makes you subtract. So we subtract 1. That is a 2ix from those. Who else has to come? Minus 1x needs to come, so that's handled. All the x's leftward. Question about the x's going leftward. And all the numbers would go the other way. So is this 2i going to change? Yeah, to how much I? 7i. Because this is subtracting, causes you to add, so we're up to 7i on that. And who else? Minus 4, because we're doing opposites to add 4, turn into the opposite. Question about that. We're getting warmer. Okay, what's the criticism of this?
X's aren't really like together.
Yeah, the x's aren't really together. We've got 2 x's and we need a pseudo artist x.
Take out an x.
Take out a GCF. If you take out an x,
2i minus 1.
2i minus 1. We're close. Question there. To get the x completely alone, what are these doing right now? Multiply. So your job is to
But
divide. 7i minus 4 is on top. 2i minus 1 is on the bottom. On the quiz, this will be a 2-point question. If you can get to here, you earned a point. Why is this not done?
i's on the bottom.
I's not allowed on the bottom. Okay, but we'll pause here. Question about this. This is pretty good. We did a lot of good stuff. But this is the hardest process of the day for sure, in case you didn't figure that out yet. Question about that one. So how do we fix the i's on the bottom? Conjugate stuff. So this is in parentheses. This is in parentheses. We go conjugate. Why would 2i plus 1 be the wrong thing to put?
Change the sign.
We change the sign with the I. So it would be a negative 2i and a minus 1. A negative 2i and a minus 1. Let's do the bottom first. The bottom's going to go quick. Why will the bottom be quick? Square n. Okay, we chose these to be conjugates, so we don't need to worry about signs. We don't need to worry about i's. Your I only has to notice there's a 2, there's a 1. Signs and i's have nothing to do with the two-step plan. Just square add.
5.
5. The top's going to take some more foiling work. So top, just tell me temporary things, just so we don't leave anybody behind.
49.
Say again?
49.
No, there's
Negative 14i.
close.
Just be 14.
Negative 14i squared. So there's going to be a negative 14i squared temporary there. When we multiply those, that's what that'll do for us. Who else is coming?
4.
There is a positive 4. That's coming from these. There is a positive 8i coming from those.
Negative 7i.
There is a negative 7i coming from those. And we're getting good. Question about that FOIL? I'll go here. I count.
1.
There is a 1i from these. Number count? 18. Because this I squared makes negative 1, which makes this negative a positive 14, and 4 is 18. If you got all the way here, I think I'd give you your 2 points, but I'll write fix on there, because in the world of iMath, people for some reason like you to separate this into a real part and an I part, and they prefer the I part to be second. So don't look at this as a single fraction. Look at this as a fraction, trying to add that fraction, and the preferred way for this to look would be 18/5 first and 1/5 second with an I, and nobody could criticize that. I'm pretty good with this. I'm good enough with this. I don't usually feel like taking points off, but just to emphasize the point, this would make everybody happy, even if they were the most compulsive math person in the world. Question about that. If you were insane, you could plug that back in and check, but I mean,
No.
I don't think anyone in their right mind would do that, because this in parentheses would have to go in for all the x's, and I think you'd have to be, there might be a mental health issue there if you wanted that point so much that you were willing to plug into that. That's a little bit over the top. Unless we were sending an astronaut to the moon and their life was on the line, I can't imagine I would possibly ever plug this into that and make it work. That seems unlikely. Question about those 3. Again, that's the hardest thing of the day, easily. Scrolling leftward. The last 2 things I think are the 2 easiest things of the day. So the last 2 little bits of homework, and I should have probably highlighted this while we were doing it, but the thing where we wrote the parentheses and I said half FOIL, half don't, that's what the homework's asking you to do from 7 to 18. So there's 12 of those where you set up the parentheses, they equal 0, and you see how it foils or not. The thing we just did that filled that whole corner of the board, that's like 19 to 26 what you're doing. You're trying to solve for x. Then there's 2 of these, 27, 28, there's 2 of these. They'll say show that something is the factorization of something else. How do you suppose you could show that something with parentheses is the factorization of something else? Just FOIL it. Okay, so if we go to FOIL this, let's do our temporary stuff. X squared,
Negative 2i.
a negative 2ix,
Positive
a
2i.
positive 2ix,
Negative 2i squared.
minus 4i squared. That's only temporary to make a plus 4. And then these,
Cancel.
eliminate, and
X squared plus 4.
we showed it. The fact they didn't ask, is it yes or no, means
It is.
it is. It's just a matter of showing it. If this were any other section and not, like, how could you have multiplied this?
Just combine the terms and put it on.
Square it. We could do 2-step plan there. Focus on the x, focus on the 2, square add. But I don't think this is much of a showing. Like, it said show. So if you're like, 2-step plan, square add this, well, you didn't show anything that wasn't already in the problem. So on this, I would say two-step plan temporarily off limits, because that doesn't really show anything. So go some temporary stuff. But two-step plan would have been in play on that one. Question about the show? Okay, last thing is going to be the similar style. They're going to say show that this is the square root of that. Since again they say show, it's not yes, no, it's yes. It's just a matter of showing it. How could you show that something is the square root of something else?
Just put
1 plus I multiplies 1 plus I. Yeah, if you want to show, like let's do an easy square root. You're back in like 7th grade again. If I ask you to show that, pick an easy example. Who is the square root of who? 4 is the square root of 16. You could show that to me by doing 4 times 4 is 16. You showed me. If we want to show this is the square root of that, just go it times itself. Just do it out. So we can't do the two-step plan. Why no two-step plan? These aren't conjugates. It's the same sign. So there's a 1 there.
QI.
There's 2 of the i's there.
I squared.
There's an I squared. I squared.
-1.
-1.
Cancel out the
Those eliminated. We got 2i. I'm convinced. We showed it. Can you wait 10 more seconds? Can anybody find the other root? Because there's 2 ideas here. Step 1 is show it, which would take a little bit of handwriting. Can anybody tell me what the other one would be? You will. I might just have to make one
Is
connection
it-
for you first.
1 minus I squared, or make 1 minus I.
Warm? So let's go back to the, I'll make the connection for you. If you showed me 4 was the square root of 16, who would the other root be?
Negative 4.
-4. How'd you do that?
Negative 4 times negative 4 is 16.
That's true. You just had to switch.
Sorry.
Okay. So if this is one of the roots,
This is it, -1 minus 1. Or minus I.
-1 minus I is the other root. You just had to switch.
Okay, you gotta switch back.
Switch all the signs. If you switch all the signs, you got it. So we'll show the 1 by taking it times itself, and then if you switch all of the signs of the whole problem, you'd have the other one. That's pretty much do it. Question about any of these, like subtopics, you could go, the homework off of this is 332. It's going from 1 to 30, same types of problems in the same order all the way down. Anybody need help with anything that's new to your life? Okay, so let's pop back to 328. 328, I don't know if people ran into any issues. Nobody's complaining yet about having writing on their page like they sometimes do. Does anybody have any kind of like homework trouble on 328? You need some reteach, remind, help out kind of things? We sort of already did a reteach of the divide over there when we divided. We sort of did a reteach of the multiplying when we hit a few with the two-step plans. Like we sort of did this. There's 2 questions that I doubt if people got right very much. If people don't want to ask, I'll just say no on that. Nobody, nothing? That's a wrap.